Here is a question for you. What if everything you have learned about health is just wrong? We are told there is one perfect diet, one best supplement, one size fits all. But the truth, most health advice is built on myths, and millions are paying the price. The truth is, your body is unique. So why do we treat health like a factory line? Today, personalized medicine is no longer a luxury, it's a necessity. But most people are lost in a maze of contradictory science, celebrity trends, and miracle claims. And here is the cost.
82% of all females have too low iron levels. But over 85% of those women are currently taking iron supplementation.
The problem is simple. Generic advice fails and the stakes are high. We are living longer, but unfortunately not healthier.
I mean, I played against NBA players. I played against the national team of Spain, and we were down by 40 points at halftime or something like that. And the coach said,
it's just like in elite sports. Resilience and personalization are the difference between thriving and just surviving. But there is a path forward. Imagine a world where your health plan adapts to you every day, in every minute, in real time.
There's a dream that I have a vision where you wake up in the morning, you go downstairs to your kitchen, your fridge has a scanner. The scanner screens your face. You put your hand in, the screen scans your hand, and based on your temperature, based on your data, your wearable data, your sleep, your face, your sagginess of your eyes, the body will be able to tell what's missing, and the machine will create.
And that's not science fiction. That's the vision of my guest today. Vadim Fedotov, co-founder and CEO of Bioniq. He's a leader in health tech, an elite athlete, and the mind behind one of the world's most advanced personalized wellness platforms. Today, Vadim shares how the myths of health are being shattered, why resilience on the court and in the boardroom matters more than talent, and how the future of medicine begins with you. But before we begin, a quick request. If this conversation sparks a new insight or challenges your perspective, consider following the show or leaving a thoughtful review or sharing it with someone in your circle who values real progress. That's how we attract more visionary leaders and elevate the depth of every episode. So stay with us. This episode may change the way you see your own health forever. Why is everybody moving to Dubai right now?
I think there's several aspects. Number one is it's incredibly convenient. Although it's a megapolis, it's still a small town where you can get anywhere in 25, 30 minutes. Everybody lives around 20 minutes away from the airport.
Really?
Infrastructure is brand new, so it's very thought through. All the big international brands. So you have, I lived in New York, I lived in London, I lived all over the place. All those big brands have now outlets here. So anything that you liked and then somewhere else, you like the arts club in London, now there's an arts club in Dubai. You know, you like some gym in New York, the same gym opens up here. All the fancy restaurants from Miami, all the hotel chains. But then because it's Dubai, you can't just open up the same thing which is in Europe or in the US. You have to actually go all out here to compete because there's so much money here. You have obviously the safety aspect. It's incredibly safe. Like you don't have to lock your car, you don't have to lock your house. You can leave your stuff on the beach. You don't have to think about things, especially compared to something like London currently. And then last but not least, you can't beat zero taxes. So not having income tax or have very limited taxes on profit is very, very nice setup.
And is this really true? I mean, you see it on the internet often that people talk about moving to Dubai. Is this really true that they are not just going on holiday, they are on a business trip for 2 weeks, that they are really moving there with everything?
Oh, Dubai had the highest immigration of millionaires in the last year. And this year is going to be even more than last year. So it's definitely certainly true. I mean, this city is in front of your eyes, just growing, 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 with incredible new developments being built.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think the quality is speaking for itself, including the quality of the people who are moving here.
You mentioned that the highest numbers of millionaires is moving to Dubai currently. What's the main reason for them to leave Europe, for example? Why do they decide for Dubai? I mean, Europe is nice. Why not just stay here?
I think the tax policies in Europe are getting more restrictive.
Mm,
I think security is becoming an issue in many major cities. A lot of people in my network have had issues with robbery or had issues that were violently. And I also think from an upbringing perspective for children, Dubai is very, very conservative. So there's a lot of people who have young children who at this given moment maybe prefer conservative, you know, surroundings than other countries currently.
in what way conservative?
I think it's a political topic.
Okay.
There's liberal people out there, and then there's conservative people, and the people who rather prefer conservative approaches.
Mm.
With young children specifically, they choose to be here and bring them up here.
So it's basically, it means for parents with children that their kids can have similar upbringing like in Europe with similar schools, just from the conservative part of society with conservative values.
Like Europe from, when I went to school in Germany in 91. So Europe from a long time ago, not the current Europe. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I went to school in the 80s, so it's on the countryside in Austria. I think it was pretty much the same like in Germany back then, before the German Wende in 1989. Where did you grow up in Europe?
I grew up next to Munich. I grew up in Garmisch-Partenkirchen, so not far away from Austria.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it was probably it's still one of the most beautiful places. So I grew up in Garmisch. Finished my high school next to in the area of Köln-Bonn in Bad Honnef.
Hmm.
And then went studying in New York in the US.
Great, great. Let's jump right into our question marathon for the next 2 hours and start with the first question for the people who I know just listen for 5 minutes and then jump off because they are in a hurry, maybe moving to Dubai. What three main ideas do you want them to remember from this episode?
I think the main ideas is when it comes to health, there's certain things. Number one, it has to be safe. So quality should be first and foremost in rank. Second one, it has to be efficient. And the third one is, which people need to realize, is we're personalizing everything in our world. But when it comes to supplementation, we still take one size fits all approach, which basically says on the bottle says take 2 pills, and everybody takes 2 pills. You take 2 pills, I take 2 pills, our children, our parents. And that's just not right. We have the largest biochemical database for continuous blood testing for microelements, for vitamins. And every single body is different compared to each other, and every single body needs something else in different moments and times. So what I want people to understand is that the current setup or the current market for supplementation, micronutrients, is ready to be disrupted because the status quo hasn't changed in decades. But the access to diagnostics has become complete more open. And now you can combine the access of diagnostics with a personalized solution in one. And I think this is the next forefront, and this is the next wave of innovation in the health space.
Yeah, it's a lot about longevity. When we talk about your field, what's the latest development that truly excites you?
I mean, my field can be very broad. My field can be anything in terms of health and wellness. My field can be very, very limited, which is micronutrients. Like the things that excite me most is that there's a shift going on in people's opinion about health. Health is truly the new wealth, where people understand, especially after COVID, how health can become a limiting factor if you don't look after it. So you see this shift that our target audience before COVID was 35, 40 plus year olds. We have now 18, 20-year-olds are interested in their health and their well-being because there's a cosmic shift going on where people are more open to understand better what's going on inside of them. And then those younger people start educating their parents. So it's not, it used to be parents used to tell the children, eat healthy, eat your greens, take your supplements, go for a walk. Now it's the children telling their parents. And I think that's the biggest shift. The biggest shift is from a consumer perspective. There's a shift in expectation that looking after the health is the main thing, not just a side thing.
What's your opinion? Where is this shift coming from? Why is this happening?
Because people were exposed to what happens when you don't look after your health. People got the scare of their life with COVID. People realized that everything that you have, all your toys, all your tools, all that stuff can be taken away from you the moment you can't get out of the house, the moment you are restricted in your life, the moment you are feeling unsure, the moment you are scared of getting sick. And this is when the shift happened.
That's interesting. When I think back 20 years ago, it basically was smoke, drink whatever you want, eat whatever you want. When you are sick, then you go to the doctor. And now we are living in a completely new era of health. But,
it's not even preventive anymore. So preventiveness is, I don't want to get sick. Proactiveness is, I want to optimize. I want to be better than right now. So we're seeing the first era where people are not just not trying to get sick, they're trying to take status quo and get better. They want to go in the other direction. They want to like, hey, where can I be in 30 years, 50 years? People who are talking about living past 120 are not considered crazy anymore, because people understand that if the dynamics that happen over the last 3-4 years continue to happen and compound, then this shift will be much, much stronger, and the implementations and the impact can be significant.
What buzzword would you choose for this trend? I mean, if it's not preventive medicine anymore,
Health optimization. It's health optimization.
Health optimization. Health optimization.
That's
very
the word.
Interesting.
Health optimization is the word's going on.
Are we early in this trend, or is it already global?
The health optimization trend is it's global around certain people. It feels global when you're part of it. I mean, when you look to the Hubermans, to the Peter Attias, to all those worlds, then, I mean, last year, the #1 podcast in the world was Huberman talking about the impact of alcohol. Can you imagine 3-4 years ago, a Stanford professor having the #1 podcast in the world and the topic for it to being alcohol's impact on health?
I think it would have been his last lecture at the university. 20 years ago, especially, I think it was quite normal to drink alcohol.
So yeah, it's indicative. It's indicative. There's a shift in people's demand and interest in health, and you see this first foremost. So yes, it's not as niche. It's not as big as I would love it to be, because I'm in it, but it's not as niche as some people think it is, because you can tell if you listen to podcasts and you like scientific-based content, then you would like to know more how to optimize yourself.
I think this is an interesting information for investors. When the trend is there and it's still early, there might be a lot of opportunity in this area. So it's
the CAGRs, our industries are incredible. I mean, there's the double-digit CAGRs everywhere. Anything you look, I mean, personalized medicine, personalized supplementation is growing between 15 to 25% just from a market perspective. And that's not even talking about, personalized medicine as a whole. That, I think, the growth there will keep on going, because now you have access to diagnostics, which is cheaper and quicker, as I said. Now you have the telemedicine aspect, so it's remotely. Now you have also, from a law perspective, I think there's a lot of things coming towards personalized dosaging. And when you can combine those things, where you can track quicker, have access more, and receive things that are tailor-made to your needs at this given moment, this will be a very, very big change in our current structure of, healthcare, or as some people call it, sick care.
Yes, the next 20 years, probably 20, 30 years that this change will occur. When was the first time in your life that you asked the question, what does healthy mean?
That was a little bit less than 10 years ago, when I was around 32, and I had the symptoms that I didn't expect to have around 32. I had the brain fogs, I had the fatigue, I had the lethargicness, I had the additional weight, I had the miss of the desire or the joy, which was very surprising for somebody who has, I'm a professional athlete in my past. I have access to information, I have access to resources. And when I realized that there's something going on from a body perspective or from a physical perspective, I went and saw a doctor, spoke to a doctor, wanted to find out what's wrong with me, and realized that his approach was, let me check your blood. I don't see an illness. You're not ill. There's nothing I can do. If you're ill, I'll prescribe you something. And that feedback loop was just something that was not in line with what I expected. So that kind of sent me on my path to, to Bioniq and to, build something in that space.
Come back, young man, when you have a serious illness. Don't bother me, basically. In these last 10 years, you probably did a lot of research in health, what healthy means, what you can do to increase your health. What was the wildest health myth that you heard during your research?
I think myth is it's hard because there's a couple things. What people realize is there is no right thing for everyone. There is no best diet. There is no best exercise. It does not exist. Even sleeping patterns are not the same for everyone. Some people sleep good on 4 hours and 5 hours because they get enough deep REM sleep and they can do a power nap in the afternoon. Some people that don't have 8 hours of sleep, they cannot recharge fully because their growth hormone release will not happen in a lesser amount of time. There's things about diet perspective. I just in the last 10 years witnessed the hype of keto, of carnivore, of paleo, intermittent fasting, which was the thing to do 5 years ago. Now everybody's screaming, stop doing it, especially as a woman. Don't do it over 14 hours. Be careful. Look for your thyroid functions. Make sure that there's enough intake there. So the thing that changes are happening in front of our eyes. The one thing that you realize is because there's so much more access, all those things that we grew up with, like the standard American diet, right? Where carbs was the main point of your intake.
Yeah.
We find out that this was just sponsored by companies, by the lobbyism, to increase the intake of carbohydrates. It was never the best diet. So there's a lot of things coming out to the surface that were taught to us in the past where lobbyism was the main aspect of it. Fat is not bad for you. Sugar is not good for you, but in certain times of the day and in regards to combination can be beneficial. And it does, like everybody's trying to draw the devil on the wall, but that's not how health and medicine works. So there's a lot of things out there where people that used to say, anybody who tells me this is the only way how to do it, stop listening to, because I've seen 22, 25-year-old twins, both fitness instructors, living together in the same roof, eating together, working out together. They did the blood test with us. It could have not been more different. People are completely different, even when they have to have the same parents, live in the same house, work out the same way, and eat the same things. So for those two people, you need two different approaches, just like for anybody else.
That's interesting. I mean, isn't that really complex? Do you have a lot of opinions on the market, opinions that are completely opposing sometimes? I mean, you have the Huberman podcast you mentioned, you have other podcasts, you have other experts, then you have the lobbyists. How do you deal with this complexity in your company?
So there's a couple of ways. Number one is data doesn't lie. So we believe that if you can quantify something, then that's a starting point. If people just claim something with no data, then we're not going to even pay attention to it. The reason why people like Peter Attia or Huberman are gaining traction is because compared to other people, which I don't want to name right now, they don't make loud statements for clickbait, stating that if you put a banana in a shaker, it has 5 times more sugar than a banana if you just eat it, like stuff like that. Because they can back it up with data. So what we're trying to do is, you're trying to be data backed and you're trying to be conservative and you're trying to say or do everything that you do saying it might work, but double check. So it's never just black and white. We're never going to go out there and scream, this is the right thing to do. So you have to be sure that you provide people clarity that this might be a working option. And the reason why you believe that is because data like this publication, this group showcases that factor.
Let me ask you a critical question. You talk a lot about data, a lot about science, and you have a scientific approach in your company. And your past is a pro athlete in basketball. You played for the German national team. What brought you into the scientific health tech world? Wouldn't it be much easier for a pro athlete to do a deal like Michael Jordan, for example, Nike, or just get signed up by Adidas, show your face, show your body, show your shoes, and people buy it and you make money. Why the health tech world? I mean, science is complex. Why did you choose that complex, difficult, challenging path?
First of all, nobody would pay me money to advertise for Nike. I was never that good. I was at best average for college level. When you get to the US, you realize how good basketball really is. It's not in Europe. It's in the US. You see true basketball. I always had two passions. One was education. One was health. And I always want to do something that I don't need to be convinced by to do.
Mhm.
Health related things I do every day, regardless of I'm getting paid or not, because this is something that drives me. And the reason why I went into this field in terms of diagnostics and for the personalized solution is because I wanted to find a solution that I can use myself. This was a scratch your own itch kind of thing. I'm like, hey, I want to know what I need and I want to know if it works. Why does not nobody offer it? Maybe I can find somebody. So obviously, as you said correctly, I don't have a medical background. So I was able to research and discover that 2011, 2017, there was incredible research being done on micronutrient impact on professional athletes, Olympic athletes, 954 of them over 6 years' time in Switzerland. And they were able to showcase that if you provide people personalized supplements, vitamins, and microelements, and optimize those athletes' levels, they become cognitively and physically much more capable and have significant improvement levels in standardized tests. And I was blown away that if you can give a professional athlete supplements, that he can perform better and think quicker and make less mistakes, what can you do for a regular person? So that's kind of how my path started. I wanted to find a solution for myself, realize there's not one on the market, but realize there's one currently in research. And then the idea was, let me take that intellectual property, let me take the data sets, and let's see if we can scale it into a global company.
Does it make such a huge difference to personalize supplements? I mean, is the outcome really that much better?
Uh, very simple example. 82% of all females have too low iron levels.
Mhm.
But over 85% of those women are currently taking iron supplementation.
Mhm.
So you need to understand that 9 out of 10 women almost are currently taking something that does not work for them or barely works for them. When you personalize in a matter of 3 months, over 90% of those women are in the optimal level. So you go from something that barely works, if at all, to something that most of the time leads you to an optimal level. This optimal level will lead to higher recovery rates, less sick days, and your body focusing on getting stronger and better instead of fighting illnesses.
Mhm. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Let's come back later to that point when we talk about what diagnostics can do and how you do it and how you crunch the data and help people. Let me ask you one question before that. I mean, reading about health supplements is one thing. A lot of people do that on the internet these days, especially with the advanced internet of 2025. It's really great. But they don't feel the urge to found a company. What got you going on this journey? Why did you decide to found a company and not just stay on the consumer level and just say, okay, internet is great, I use it, I research it. No, I want to change something. I found a company. What sparked this urge in you?
I think that the urge was because literally there was nothing there. And I thought it took me 2 years. So I researched for 2 years. I talked to sports teams. I went to the Silicon Valley. I talked to VCs. I looked into portfolios of VCs if there's something there. And it just blew my mind that something so obvious does not exist yet.
Hmm.
And when something is obvious and doesn't exist, it just screams at somebody who is an entrepreneurial spirit that this cannot be the case and this has to be solved. And then when I did the pilot and did a pilot group for it, one of the people who were part of the pilot group was the head of performance for the UFC, so the Ultimate Fighting Championship out of Nevada in Vegas. And he asked me to fly out to meet with a senior vice president. And I flew out in November of 2018. And during the meeting, they said they've never seen a product like this before. So what I was doing on a pilot level was already on a global level seen as the pioneer and leader in that space. And
Hmm.
this was the moment where I realized I need to take this from a pilot to a full-blown company. So I quit the day job, launched a company in London in January 2019, and took it from there.
You worked with the UFC. You negotiated with Dana White.
I know it was not Dana White. It was one of the senior, but not Dana.
Yeah, but it's great. It's great working with the UFC. They are the best athletes in the world, in my opinion, all-round talents. Yeah, you don't agree?
It's hard to ask a basketball player what he thinks.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay, my fault.
I don't think it's hard. The best athletes are decathlon. Decathlon is considered globally accepted by all athletes that that's the ultimate athlete.
Mm.
Everything else is up to your taste.
Yeah, I have a martial arts background, so basically I'm biased in that direction. Um, Let me ask you one question to your entrepreneurship journey. You said um, in that space, no solution existed, and you saw the opportunity. When I talk with other people and they come to the conclusion, okay, this is a space where nothing exists, they conclude maybe it's just a dumb idea. Why should I try that? Nobody's doing that. And if it was a good idea, someone would do it and a big company already would be on it. So it must be really dumb and stupid and not move forward. I mean, I live in Austria, so probably this is also a little bit of a background. Why were you not scared in that moment to say, okay, nobody's doing that? Why did you not question yourself but said, okay, let's go, let's do it, let's change it? What made the difference for you?
Because I wanted to use the product myself regardless.
Mm.
I was so convinced of this product for personal usage. I was so convinced of this product for usage for my friends and family. My whole family has been on it from day one since launching it or testing in 2018. We have never missed a day, a week, a month. We did the blood test every 3 months because we understand how it changes. So I was so convinced that even if this would be just a niche hobby, quote unquote hobby, it's still worthwhile doing it because it's so important for my everyday life, because it's so important for everyday life of the people I care about. And when you start something out of that passion, then you have the opportunity to grow into something special.
Mhm. I mean, what does it mean for people? I just try to think it through while you were speaking. At the end of the day, we have a healthcare system, which is, as you said, more a sick care system where people are trained, and it's a good training, and it's good that we have it, but they are solely trained to uh, not prevent sickness, but cure sickness. So we wait until the moment, until a person becomes really sick, and then the healthcare system kicks in. This means nobody helps people actually on a larger scale to stay healthy.
I think there's an incredible amount of initiatives where people are trying to keep people healthy. I think there's an incredible amount of initiatives where people want to be active, where people explain the importance of food. There's a lot of things out there. I'm not saying that there's people are not trying. I grew up as an athlete because people around me had the sports team, had the youth sports clubs, had the access to the gyms and all this kind of thing. I don't want to call it black and white. It's not as bad. It's just the educational aspect, the importance of it. People don't fully understand why it's important to do it as early as possible. People don't understand why their bodies have different needs than other people. Those things only come to you, unfortunately, when you're at a stage where like, oh, I don't understand, but I thought I eat well. Well, not really. Your body needs something else. Or I thought I'd take multivitamins. Well, yes, those multivitamins, the dosage was not enough for your body to care. Like all those kind of things, you only understand when most of the time it's too late because you start doing regular blood testing, because you had a conversation with your doctor, because you were not happy with the suggestions that you provided, because you start taking pharmaceuticals every single day and you're like, maybe I don't want to take medicine for the rest of my life. I think this things happen later in life because when you're young, you don't think about those things. You just want to live your life. You have enough other problems.
Now I'm curious, what is your customer journey?
And how they come to us or how
Uh,
they.
let's just play it through with myself. I mean, I use supplements for almost 30 years now, the same brand. Just think it helps me. Some people suggested it, recommended it, not on the early version of the internet, and some doctors and some athletes didn't change it. I'm 51, feel pretty well. I'm pretty sure there's a lot that can be optimized, and I would approach you. So, what would you do for me?
The conversation would be the following: how many supplements are you currently taking? And if the supplements are rather limited, then I'll say, hey, Christian, how do you feel? You say generally well. Then from a psychosomatic aspect, I would not probably start right away with pushing something down your drain. So I would not be the one who's like pushing other products on you, because again,
That's that.
you now are in a natural state where you are comfortable and feel well about yourself. So my aspect would have been like, when's the last time you did a blood test? You tell me, come back, oh, I had done a year ago or more than a year ago. I'd be like, well, probably at 51, a regular blood test at least every 6 months would be preferred. In the blood test, you will realize that you have certain deficiencies, because I did several 100,000 blood tests. There are only 2 people out of several 100,000 that had ideal markers. Chance that you're one of those 2 is 99.9.9%. So the conversation that you and I are having is, if you take supplementation to support you every day and you feel good about it, I wouldn't be one of the ones going to tell you, no, Christian, change something. But if you come to me and be like, hey, I realize I don't have the energy anymore, or my skin elasticity is not there, or my hair is, or my muscle, or my recovery takes longer, or I don't feel as good, or I don't sleep as well, well, that's indication of certain deficiencies in your body. Is it calcium? Is it magnesium? Is it zinc? You know, do you have brain fog? Is vitamin B? Immunity system is vitamin D. Like, there's all those things are coming together where I can better understand. Like, this is the conversation that you would have. So from an onboarding perspective is, oh, I generally feel good. Okay, good, perfect. Then we as a Bioniq, as the company, we're not there to convert somebody who takes vitamin D and takes vitamin C when they get sick. We want to talk to the people that have 10 or 15 of those vitamin bottles at home, and they don't know which one to take, or they take all at once, or then they stop taking for 3 weeks, and then they realize, oh, I don't think they work, or they do work. People who are confused. We're there to help with the selection and with the dosage, and we help them to evolve over time with a product that supports their health goals. That's the conversation that we're having with our clients. That's the customer journey that we have.
Okay, so you dig into the problem. Let's assume I just say, okay, optimize what you find. Find out how would it look like. What is your optimization path?
There's 2 approaches. There's one product that was the initial product, it's Bioniq Pro. So you do a blood test. So it's an extensive blood test, around 50 blood markers, and would indicate what deficiencies you have and what doses you need to optimize them. And the second one would be a questionnaire. And in the questionnaire, which is an individual questionnaire, you would reply to, from your health, lifestyle, health habits, food intake, medical history, or family medical history. We would have a better understanding of you, who you are. And then based on that, we can provide you with the solutions to help you on your health goals. So if energy is a point, when cognitive function, libido, sleep quality, recovery, muscle mass, all those things are part of the health goals, the formula will be then selected to you based on what you need.
Okay, so did I understand you right? Basically, you analyze the situation of the patient or of the client, ask them about their goals, what they want to achieve, where they feel something would be better and is not really well enough, and you really dig with them into their lives and find out what their problems are, what kind of solutions they are looking for, and then you match it with your data and your products, and you personalize your products for them.
And the uniqueness is the following. When a doctor has an average 100 to 150 patients, the pool that the doctor chooses from is very, very limited. When you have a database, I mean, we had 8.1 million people reach out to us last year. So we have a database where we understand what solutions are needed for what people, and we have the algorithm can now predict what dosage will lead to what results and over what time.
So you use artificial intelligence for your recommendations.
Back when we started, it was not AI. The word was not as popular. We called algorithm, and then you have a machine learning aspect which updates the algorithm. Yeah.
Okay, I think I have a basic understanding of your process. Let me ask you another critical question. When you think about the supplement space, I mean, you just need to open any fitness magazine, and as a consumer, there are so many advertisements of products and all promise being the next best thing and better than all the other things. And it's just gold, and you need to take it, and you need to take only this and forget all the rest. Isn't there a lot of skepticism around your company when you present your solution to people? Say, I mean, what's better with you than all the others on the market? The market is crowded.
Very simple. We're the only company in the market that has a objective feedback loop. So every single company tells you we're the best. They cannot prove they're the best. They're just the best at screaming that they're the best. We're the
That's
only
true.
company who is integrated with medical institutions. We're the only company used by professional sports clubs. We're the only company used by professional athletes all over the world in all sports for many, many years, because our members and our partners know that every 3 months, or as many blood tests they do, they will be able to see the efficacy of the product. So while everybody screams how good they are, we're showcasing the actual results.
That's a great approach. That's a great approach. So basically, the customer comes to you with their blood test. You find ways to optimize it, and then you tell them in advance, okay, when you take these supplements, you will get that outcome. Observe it for 3 months. Then you do the next blood test and show us the data and come back. And if you complain, we have a solution for you.
And the product will, if the dosage that was recommended does not evolve the results as quickly as optimization, then the formula will be adjusted accordingly in the future. So it's an ongoing journey. People ask us how long they should take Bioniq. I tell them, how long do you plan on sleeping well and eating healthy? It's just part of your lifestyle, because micro elements, you know how much, so people don't understand, you know how much to get vitamin D, to get 5,000 IU of vitamin D, you have to eat 115 eggs.
115 eggs.
For 5,000 IU, or you can eat 1.8 kilograms of wild caught fish. That's just to get to the regular dosage. When people talk about things like this, when people are like, I'm skeptical of supplements, I'm like, you can be skeptical of supplements. You can get it out of the food, but the volume of food that you need is so much that you will not be able to adhere to it. So supplementation will be part of your everyday lifestyle if you want to have a balanced health results and balanced energy level, because you will not be able to get it from other sources on a daily basis.
Let me ask you a follow-up question to what you mentioned, the optimum dose of vitamins or certain elements. Let me just pull out the book. It was this book, basically, that I read, I think it was 20 years ago, almost, the Optimum Nutrition Bible. My question to you is, how do you conclude on an optimum value of vitamins? I mean, there are several opinions on the market, and everybody says something different.
Very
How
simple. Very simple. Everybody has a target. So if you want to do vitamin D, so for Christian, vitamin D levels should be between, it's called 50 to 70. I probably have it higher for you, probably 55 to 75, but let's say that. Let's say we give you 5,000 IU, which is 25 times higher that you would normally get a daily recommendation, which is 400. So you get 5,000, and we realize we took you from 28 to 52. Then the next one will be 6,000. So the doses that you need is not in any book in this world, because nobody has seen Christians' blood test on a regular basis. So I cannot write you how much IUs or dosages you need, because you are unique, and you are where you are today, you'll never be again in the future, because everything will change. So the dosage is whatever the body needs at this given moment. And what we're trying to get to is there's a clear understanding for optimal ranges, depending on your demographic, where you need to be. So we understand the optimal range, we understand dosages, and we're trying to adjust the dosages to get you in this range.
That's fascinating. That's fascinating. But I think it's the first time in history, in human history, that you have the tools today to really do that for a large scale of customers.
Nobody had it. And the problem, again, listen to this. When I started it, one of my first test markets was Hong Kong. And we did the blood test that I need the parameters that we needed. And they didn't have the laboratory in Hong Kong. They had to send it to the US. It took them 30 days to come back with the blood results. I don't care about your blood test in 30 days, because in 30 days, you're a new human being. So the things that we started off, today, you can get the results between 2 to 5 days. Now you have a much closer window, and the test doesn't cost several $1,000s. It costs a couple $100s. So it becomes more a commodity, it becomes quicker, it becomes more available. And because of what we're going through right now, where you can just upload it, it becomes much more convenient for the consumer too.
And you can crunch the data with artificial intelligence to find better ways to get the patients or your customers to the optimal levels.
that is the icing on the cake. This is something that I think we're just starting off. I think I've experienced incredible insights and I've experienced incredible in-depth research from AI on our basis, on our step. And I think the combination of Bioniq between being a physical company because you have a physical product and a digital component because you have the feedback loop with the data sets us up uniquely, especially in this AI time.
It was impossible 30 years ago, 40 years ago, when I just imagine the healthcare system in the 80s. What you do, it would be not really financial possible for any patient to do that journey. It's really great to hear that. When we talk about your customers, what was the best customer feedback that you got?
I mean, the best customer feedback is, I mean, there's a lot that we changed lives. We changed lives for people. Some things that we don't advertise, but as a founder, you are taken aback as we have several, I mean, tens of women in their 30s who never had children, and after optimizing their microelement levels, were able to give birth because they realized the deficiencies they had from a folic acid perspective, from a calcium perspective, from certain microelements that are necessary to conceive. We had several people who had certain reactions or capabilities or limitations that were taken aback. We had people who did a blood test without knowing and found out that they're close to having chronic diseases and were able to find out that. We had people who had mercury poisoning because the fish that they were eating was bad. They felt bad, they didn't understand why, and then we got the results and it was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. So there's a lot of things that we were able to see and support and share with the consumers on their path to either get better or become better.
What about the other side of the customers? There are the good ones who talk very positively about you, and then there are these critical ones on the other side of the spectrum.
The critical ones, I think, they have the wrong expectation. So supplementation, I always tell people from a health pyramid perspective, 70% is nutrition, then it's sleep and activity. And then when you have those three things figured out, you have the mental well-being, and then you have supplementation. People want to buy a wonder pill and say, hey, I take Bioniq, why don't I look better, feel better, sleep better, act better? Well, because it's part of it. If you have a bad diet, Bioniq is not the solution that will get you over the top to a six-pack. So there's a lot of people who have wrong expectations. And then the second aspect is, which is very interesting, around 30% of the people do not feel a difference, but see it in the blood test result. And funny enough, or not funny enough, in majority of those people who don't feel a difference, but see the difference in the results, will still be not happy. Because they're like, yes, okay, I see I got better, but I don't feel better. And I thought I'm going to feel better. And we're like, but you're healthier, you're less inclined to get sick, you're performing higher, your body is in a better state. And to those people, that's not as important.
So your company is up and running. It's not a concept stage. It's a fully blown company with customers delivering solutions.
Our company has shipped to 73 countries last month.
73 countries. That's amazing.
At 8.1 million people, as I said, reaching out with the 237,000 formulas created last year.
270,000.
237,000
formulas created, different formulas.
Yes, all unique.
How do you do that?
That's Bioniq.
That's Bioniq, and it's good. What's the vision and the mission of your company?
It's to educate the market that personalization, when it comes to health, is not a luxury, but it's almost a necessity because everybody is different. And we see it every single day where people are taking something because it was recommended by someone or because they read about it somewhere that has either no impacts on their daily lives or maybe even has a negative aspect because they're not in that group that need it. We have 25-year-old women reaching out to us asking for hormone supportive vitamins and supplements because they read somewhere that's good for Jennifer Lopez. Like, And that's not how this works. It does not work. There is no pill that works for all. It does not work like that. And if there's the pill that works for all, it has a different dosage.
Mm.
And people need to understand that. There's $253 billion supplement market, and almost 100% of this market is generic.
Mm.
It's average for all. It says 2 pills on a bottle, and everybody takes 2 pills. And this
So,
is what we're trying to change. We're trying to educate the market how important personalization is and what you can expect once you personalize and have a data-backed approach.
so you don't go the route like the pharma industry does still today to just package certain dosages into blisters, ship it to pharmacies, and then just distribute it widely to the population um, due to recommendation from some physician. You really personalize your product for every single customer.
We have never had the same formula twice in the history of our company.
But isn't that logistically really tough to solve?
That's why we're a Swiss-made premium company. That, that's what you do. I mean, when you're in that space, I'm not saying that the future wave will not include made-to-measure products or will include product lines, but our two main products, Bioniq Pro and Bioniq Go, are personalized bespoke supplements tailored to your needs and goals.
It means in the end of the day that you produce the supplements for every single customer um, on a special formula made for that customer. How do you solve that logistically? I mean, it must be incredibly difficult to get this is going to a growing number of customers.
It's a volume heavy semi-automatic process,
Mhm.
but that allows us to stand out. And the end of the day is efficacy is what matters. How we get to the efficacy, how much volume it is, how labor intensive it is the second question.
Mhm.
Go to the market and say, are you happy to pay 75 euros or $75 for a supplement every month? And if you say yes, then I understand I can afford to have personalization for each and one of them. When the market says, no, I don't pay more than $30, then when you go back and then do the multivitamins of this world where you just generically ship all them out. But as long as there's people out there who understand that quality and personalization costs money and is part of the costs of running the business, for that long we will have a business.
In what price range do you operate for your customers? To just get a little bit of a feeling.
$75 to $200 a month.
75 to 200. This is basically what you pay for premium supplements on the market that are not personalized.
Correct. But in our case, the customer will get on average between 40 to 60 ingredients, including in this price point. So instead of buying 10, 15 different ones, you have all of that in Swiss granular in a bottle with a high level absorption. And because it's Swiss made, it's pharmaceutical grade, because in Switzerland, supplements require the same regulatory approaches, regulatory setups as do pharmaceuticals. So there's a lot of questions to especially US made supplements because there's no FDA approval. In this case, because they're Swiss made, it's the highest quality.
So you got the question of trust out of the way, because I mean, the critical friend can say, okay, I mean, cool, I pay $200 and they say it's personalized, and then I get something shipped from, I don't know, some obscure country, somewhere, Antarctica, nobody lives there anyways, and you put nothing into it. So you really have the highest quality, and it's proven and it's certified.
I mean, if it would be from Antarctica, he would still do the blood test and he would see if it works or doesn't work. So it's not just important that it's from Switzerland. It's also important that you do the blood test before and after and you see the efficacy of it. A lot of people can claim a lot of things, but nobody can actually disprove data.
Yeah, but I think this is the big problem in the supplement space. There's so many claims out on the market, and it's really confusing.
And but those claims are most of them are illegal, or B, they're made on other. So almost 100% of all supplement companies that make claims or references to medical publications or studies, those studies were not made on their products. Those studies were made by universities 30, 40 years ago on a sample size of 15 students that most of them had a feedback loop that was subjectively, which basically was a questionnaire, how do you feel? I mean, there's a company right now that is growing really big in the last 12 months They launched a company and they put data on their website that 92% of the people or something like that seen significant improvements. And when you look at the actual publication, it was 20 people over 6 weeks that were asked once a week how they feel.
Mm.
This is not science. This is me telling my buddies once a week to write me a WhatsApp message telling me I feel great. And then I post them and say, 20 people have confirmed the efficacy of my product. So most of the supplement companies, unfortunately, when they make those claims, they can't back them up. So the consumer starts distrusting all of them because they think they're all the same.
Yeah, there was this one company, I think it was 10 or 15 years ago. They approached me. It had a multi-level marketing scheme on top of that. So basically, they tried to hire me, friend of mine. And when I looked at their product, they said it was a high-priced product. They said it will basically solve everything in your life, also your bank account and all that's connected to that. And when I looked at the product, it was basically 3 vitamins. I think it was A, C, and E or A, C, and D. And that's it. And I said, you gotta be kidding me. You want a few €100 per month for 3 vitamins. That's ridiculous. How is it for you to operate in a space?
Marketing. Listen, it's a marketing aspect. It takes time,
Mm,
but people change.
mm,
People understand, people start asking questions. There's a lot of right now feedback to one of the biggest players in the market because people found out that 70% of the ingredients are not on the label.
mm,
You're selling something, you're taking something, and 70% of the things that you're taking, you don't even know what you're taking is not even on the label.
really?
A lot of people are getting better at research. People are getting better at questioning things. And this is obviously something that goes in our favor. When you're the one who's trying to set the standard for proven results and transparent feedback loops, then it's also in your favor when people start thinking more critically.
But how is it for you? I mean, you seem to have an honest approach in this area, which is very important to people, where a lot of scams are going on. How is that for you as an entrepreneur to operate in such a space?
You take the high road, man. Listen, I'm 40 years old. I'm okay. I'm not going to sit in a corner and cry because somebody said he has the best supplements. That's
Yeah,
fine. At the end
yeah.
of the day, smart people, they do the right thing, and then the other people will start following the smart people. So we're right now in the area where the smart people are waking up, which means we're a couple of years away from them choosing and setting the direction, and other people will lead those or will follow those leaders.
Mm, that's fantastic. How many employees do you have in your company?
Um, we have around 65 employees.
65 employees. I'm curious to learn. I mean, you have a basketball background, professional sport. It's a team sport.
Sure.
And the questions that I have to you now in this next section is basically about what you learned from sports that you can use in entrepreneurship. What's the best lesson from sports that helps you as a CEO?
You lead by example, number
Mm,
one. Like you cannot scream at somebody else to run faster, jump higher, or pass the ball if you don't do all those things yourself.
mm,
You never ask somebody else to do what you're not willing to do yourself. So if you're not willing to mop up the floor, pick up the box, work on the weekends, do overtime, and do all those things, don't expect other people to do it. So you have to be in that regards. Team, one finger is not as strong as a fist. So the team is always going to be stronger. And this is, I think, I mean, there's this the proverb, if you want to run fast, run alone. If you want to run far, you need to run together. So this is an aspect where I understand how important communication is. And then things that taught me sports is we're all different. So everybody has a different approach to motivation. Things that work with you doesn't work with somebody else. So communication and adjustment of communication towards that person is very important. So I think those things, discipline, the aspect about discipline, any athlete knows it takes 10,000 hours to become decent at something. So I have no illusions about being good at something that I have never trained for. And I have the same approach to other things. So you have to be disciplined, you have to communicate, and you have to lead.
I like these points that you mentioned, this 10,000 hours. I have read it very often that it's less about talent, it's more about the hard work people put in. How do you see it with your basketball history? I mean, you saw a lot of great players in your career. How much to their success is attributed to talent and how much does hard work matter from the field experience that you have?
I mean, listen, I was not talented. I was a very hard worker, and I was able to outplay the talented players. But when the talented players work hard, that's when you have a chance to be special. So hard work is certainly more important than talent. I can guarantee you that. But when you combine those two things, that's when magic happens.
Well, what's the reality when I look at entrepreneurship, for example, these days in Europe, I very often hear, yeah, well, half time, and I want to have my holidays and 20 hours, not more, but I want to be a CEO and successful and build the next Apple. When you look back to your basketball career, what does hard work? Can you define hard work in hours and describe how a life looks like when someone really wants to become the next Michael Jordan, for example?
Listen, I've heard, yeah, the people who want to have success and be Instagram famous but cannot work. That's unfortunately that's the new reality, and
Mhm.
this is something that it's becoming harder and harder to explain to people because they want at 28 they want to have things that we couldn't dream of when we turn 50, 60 or older. I tell people, listen, I mean, when I was an athlete, my day was 5:30 was our first workout,
I
7:30 was meeting, then we had classes, 10:30 was a second workout, then we had classes, 6 p.m. was our third workout. We did this 13 days in a row with no breaks. We wouldn't go out. We'd sit in the evening, watch film. I had a case where I had 2 knee surgeries. I had a broken nose, arthritis in both of my wrists, and a bad ankle, and I still had to go into class, sit in class, because you don't skip, you don't miss things. There was majority of the days my third year, my third season in US, I couldn't get out of bed without painkillers, and 2 hours later, I still would be on the court diving on balls and playing as hard as possible. So when you get out of this world and you come to the corporate world and somebody says, I'm too ill to sit at 9:30 in my office chair, and I can't go to lunch break and I'm too tired and I have to go home by 5, you're like, that's not the cloth that we're made of, because we experience what real physical limitations are, what real pain is. And this is something that most people will never experience. This is why the athletes, when they get to a certain level, their pain threshold, their discipline, their expectation for themselves is just much, much higher. So when I speak to those kind of people who are like, "Oh my God, I want to move to Dubai," yeah, sure, yeah, sure, guys. You can want whatever you want, but you have to actually first do something before getting all those things you want.
I mean, doing something is in the good days is pretty easy, but then there are the hard days and the tough days. And you said you had some injuries. What motivated you? What kept you going to show up then for practice and not just say, okay, let's just screw it, let's go home and watch some movies?
As I said, you want to lead by example. I can't get mad at my teammates if they start missing practice because they're hurt. If I start missing practice because I'm hurt, I can't get mad at my teammates that they're not working as hard as they could if I'm slagging. I can't be mad at my teammates if anything that I expect from them, I don't expect from myself first and foremost. So you need to be that person. I mean, again, I went on record. Uh, I never understood from a physical capability perspective. I worked corporate for
Mm.
13 years. I had 0 sick days because mentally I was never in a position where I'm like, I am too sick to sit in a chair. And that's something that I just think if I wouldn't have the professional athlete career beforehand, I would have never gotten to that point.
So in your professional athlete career, you were the leader of the team and not just a team player.
Depends. I mean, in my head, I was the leader.
Mhm.
You need to ask my teammates if they consider me the leader.
um, what's the mental trick that you show up with your best self to practice and not go like the Austrians do sometimes? We call it Sudan, jammern. Just bring a bad attitude to practice, which drags down the team. What's the mental trick that you have that keeps you upbeat when your internal radar says, no, actually it's downbeat?
Because you know people are looking to you. When you put yourself in a position that you want the responsibility to lead, you cannot be a schön Wetter player or this fair weather player. We cannot just do things when things go right. Responsibility is not an on and off switch. It's always with you or it's never with you. You can't just have it from time to time. So I loved it because it drove me and drives me still to this day. I love responsibility. I love taking things under my control in terms of whatever the result is. I know I have nobody to blame but me. And I think this mindset also doesn't allow you to have days off, doesn't allow you to not be motivated, doesn't allow you to have good mood. You'll always see me in a good mood because I understand that you have to portray good mood. It doesn't matter how I feel inside. Inside I can feel whatever way it can be. I can feel sideways, but I know that if I feel sideways, it's not going to help the team.
I mean, I think the interesting thing with entrepreneurship and athletes is that when you practice daily, life happens and there will be bad days and the market will punch you in the face and the market will drag you down and someone will cross your way who tries to destroy you. That will happen. It's not a question if, it will happen. And when I think about basketball is a great game. I love it. And it's fast, it's fun, it's entertaining. And sometimes there is this interesting situation where one team is leading and the other team is fully aware that whatever they do, they're so far behind in that game, they will never win. And you still have half the game to play until the end. What I would like to explore with you is what keeps a team on the court and not just say, okay, let's fold it in. We can't win, let's just go home. Why does the team in such a situation give their everything and still keeps playing?
There's two things. One is pride.
Mhm.
You don't want to admit to yourself that you're as bad as you were, for example, the first half. Second one, you're trying to find the small wins. If you're the trainer, you're the coach, you're like, hey, let's try to win the next 2 minutes. Let's try to win the quarter. Let's try to win the next possession. So you start limiting the game within the game and focusing on that aspect. And then you always have buttons to press in terms of personal pride, team pride, what are you trying to achieve, what are you trying to do. But last but not least, I think the most important part is, hey, let's learn something in this situation for the next games. Maybe this game today, this week will not be your best. But is there certain things that you can learn or help you in the future to then win the next game? And I think this is a very important aspect. I mean,
How
I played against NBA players. I played against the national team of Spain, and we were down by 40 points at halftime or something like that. And the coach said, show me your pride. I don't want to see anything else. How proud are you guys? Because we knew we're not as good as them. We knew they're gonna beat us. But are you gonna just take the beating or are you gonna fight back?
From what your coach said, how would you transport it into a corporate setting? How can someone use this energy that your coach gave you in that situation? What words can they use to motivate their team when it looks like they are losing?
The problem, unless you're going bankrupt or liquidating, you don't really think you're losing. You think you're having a bad day or a bad week or bad quarter, right? So I think when people are underperforming, if those people are strong and capable and they're underperforming, that means either they had the wrong resources or that they're wrong goals.
Mhm.
So you need to find out, was it the resources or the goals, or was it both? Because if the person is capable and is not performing, in that case, you're the coach. You had the wrong players around him, or he's playing in the wrong sport. So this is something that you need to find out and figure out. So the goal is to better understand what's going on and then adjust. I literally had a strategic session last week where one of our top performers was not performing this year. And I realized he was in the wrong sport, quote unquote. We had to change the KPIs and his function to adjust to his strengths and capabilities.
When we stay a little bit with this failing team, I think it's there are a lot of lessons that can be learned for entrepreneurs. There must be a lot of pressure on the team then, I can imagine internally. What mental frameworks did you develop in sports, in basketball, that you can also use in business to really stay upbeat when the entire environment tries to drag you down?
I think, first of all, you need to put everything in perspective always.
Mhm.
Sports, job, career is part of your life. It's not your life. There's things like health, like family. There's certain things that are belief They're always above that. This is just a segment. I keep telling my team the entire time, guys, our 4 core priorities is family, freedom, fun, and fortune. Like those things, that's the important things. If we can provide that, great, but those things come first. So when you put things in perspective, that helps people. Because then when you look at it, there's people like Alex Hermosi, he calls running a business, he calls it a game.
Mhm.
He did it like a game. He puts it in a perspective where it's a game. How many points can you score? How hard do you try? How did you work? Like all those kind of things. When you change around from this do or die to a more pleasurable thing, then the pressure becomes also more manageable. So that's how I treat it. I'm like, hey, I wake up happy in the morning. I'm a happy person. I'm an optimist. I'll have a bad day, have a bad week, a bad quarter. We had with Bioniq, we had ups and downs. But when you take a step back, life's pretty good and I should be grateful. And that allows you to make the right decisions and have the right approach.
That's interesting. What was the hardest time with Bioniq that you had to master?
I think every startup goes through that. I mean, when you're days away from being able to to pay your employees money, or when you're on the brink of when COVID hit and we couldn't send blood tests, or when certain limitations started to happening, where it was just like certain things that you couldn't prepare for are happening. As you said yourself, there's problems will always arise. The question is how you can handle it, and you only fail when you give up. If you don't give up, you don't fail.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I like this word resilience, actually, and I think basketball or playing at the highest level of basketball is a good way to practice it. But not everybody has the chance to do that. What advice would you give to people who say, "Oh, look, I mean, I have my problems with these tough days, but I want to improve in that area." What's your advice to them? How can they become more resilient to the challenges life throws at them?
I think you need to visualize things. You need to understand, put things in perspective in terms of what's important to you at this given moment.
Mhm.
And then if what's important to you can be achieved through actions, then it's up to you to impact them. But if things that scare you or make you uncomfortable, you don't really have the means or the resource to impact them, don't let those things make you crazy. So I think the aspect is always what's in my control. And if it's in my control, I will fully focus on it. The things that are not in my control, I should not spend my mental well-being on that.
How do you distinguish these two areas in your control, and not in your control? I mean, the inner perception can always a little bit confuse the understanding of what's in control and what's not in control, like politics, for example, somewhere in the world. How do you, for your life and for your business, how do you separate the area that you can control from clearly from that you can't control, so that you can really let go of that?
Again, I'm the CEO of the company, right? I am responsible for 3 things. I control 3 things. I control to provide the resources for my team to be successful. As a CEO, I'm in charge for business development to spread and educate and do what we're doing currently about the market. And I do resolutions when there are issues happening. So these are the 3 things I'm responsible for. I have to provide the resources, I have to develop the business, and I have to solve difficult situations. Somebody else has different other aspects. If something happens that is not part of those things, that I need to understand if I'm not impacting them, that I should not worry about them as much. As you currently said, there's political things that are happening right now. If I would sit right now and think how my sales would look like in Austria after the next election, I'm not sure this would be the most efficient energy expenditure currently in my life. But I can definitely spend more attention to what resources my employees need to deal with AI integrating into their daily lives, and how our consumers are starting to analyze what's going on in their body. That's something that's in my control, because I can understand, hey, if I make the progress here, invest here, educate here more, I can become a better and more innovative company that makes a bigger impact on the market.
You mentioned before that visualization is important for success. Can you expand a little bit more on this concept of visualization?
I mean, when I was an athlete, we had sports psychologists, and one of the things that really worked well for me is visualizing success, visualizing the feelings that I have when I achieve success, making a basket, scoring the final point. How would I feel like? How would it sound like? What would my goosebumps on my skin be? What would
Mhm.
people in the crowd scream? And you can take this to anything. You can right now visualize yourself where you want to be in 1 year. You can right now visualize the body that you want. If you close your eyes right now and you want to have realistically in 12 months a different body, it's capable, it's possible. But if you don't even visualize it, then you will, you know, when you don't know where you're sailing, all winds are wrong, right?
Yeah.
So you need to visualize what you're trying to achieve, because then you have the capability to actually get there.
Is visualization enough? I mean, I think there's the book, The Secret, where just say you have to visualize it and it will come into your life. Is visualization all and everything? Is it enough?
Of course not. It's bullshit. I can visualize I want to be a billionaire tomorrow. That doesn't make any sense just because I visualized it. There has to be substance there. It has to be a realistic timeline there. And then there has to be certain steps and milestones on the way there. So no. Just because you put a poster on the wall and look at it every day, that doesn't mean that your husband will arrive on a white horse with a huge diamond ring for you. No, so that's not how this works.
Yeah, so it's still the hard work needed at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's the foundation. But
Mhm.
when you combine, again, this is a little bit like with talent. Hard work beats talent if talent doesn't work hard. But when
Mhm.
talent and hard work comes together, that's when you have the magic. When you have the foundation of hard work, discipline, and patience, and you combine it with visualization, then I think there's a very high chance that you will get as close to it as possible.
Let's stay a little bit longer with hard work and visualization. Let me try to twist it a little bit. There are these visualization maximalists, like the book The Secret, and there are the hardworking maximalists, like Gary Vaynerchuk, for example. Do you know him? Gary, influencer from the United States, who say you have to work your ass off and everything will be fine. When we see these two parts that belong together, um, what's more important in your opinion, the hard
Hard,
work or the visualization?
hard work, always. It's listen, when I hire people, it's the will, not the skill. So
Mm,
I hire people with the will to learn something. When you hire people with the skill, they might know something right now, but when the world changes, the world changes very drastically, they will not be able to keep up. So it's always the hard work. But if you only have hard work and you can't visualize something, you probably will not be a founder. You probably will not be a leader, because I need to live 5 years from today to know what we need to do today to get there. If I would only just put my head down and work hard and mix supplements and deliver supplements and never think about where we want to be in 5 years, I most likely will not grow or lead the company to the next level.
mm.
So it has to be obviously a combination of both, but you always choose the hard work.
Yeah, the thing is, I mean, what do you start with? There's this one side who says, okay, before we don't have a clear vision, a clear direction where we want to go, we do basically nothing, just exaggerating. We just visualize first, and then we do something. And then there's the other side who says, forget it. You don't need a vision. You don't need to have that clarified. Start working. And when you find out that what you're working on is not working for you, try the next thing and then try the next thing until you hit your gold mine. And then comes the vision. How do you practice this in your company? What is more important for you? What was first your vision for the company? Or did you first put in the hard work and then the vision crystallized?
I think you asked me why I went into health, and I said it's my passion is there.
Mm,
But my first job was not passion. My first job was management consultant,
mm,
because I thought it's a great job to find out what industries are interested to me. So I
mm,
had to do the hard work for 15 years first, and then be in a position where I can combine the knowledge that I built, the things that I like, with the resources that I accumulated to then go somewhere that I can build something.
mm.
So people come to us. If you come to us out of college, I'll give you a job. If I realize you're a hard worker, then I'll be like, maybe your talents are better needed in different areas, or you can grow in different areas better. But if you just come in and you're like, I see myself being very successful soon, but you don't want to work hard, you're not going to stay very long.
So
So
you're
go ahead.
So you basically worked for 15 years in your passion area or connected to your passion area, but without a clear vision. What was this moment in your life when your vision crystallized?
I didn't work in my passion area. I think I worked to create a status and create a certain foundation to then go into my passion area. My passion area is health and education. So, and the crystallization aspect was, as I said, the aha moment when I realized that there's a demand for something in myself, for myself, in the market that doesn't exist. So I didn't wake up saying I'm going to be a startup founder of a health company at the age of whatever, 35. That was not the point. I was like, I'm going to work. I'm trying to achieve certain milestones in my career.
Mm.
And then while this is happening, I was exposed to this niche in the market that nobody was able to solve.
Was there any time when you doubted your vision of thoughts that it's not your passion area anymore, but it really you couldn't get out of it? It's just like it drew you back in. Was there any moment of doubt in your life where you said, "Okay, I'm not quite sure if this is the right thing that I'm doing"?
With Bioniq, no, but Bioniq was not the case. I had previous jobs where I realized
Mm,
quite quickly I'm in the wrong industry, or I'm
mm,
in the wrong profession, and I am not passionate about what I do.
mm.
And I can tell you that's one of the worst things, especially when you're. I mean, I was a CEO for 9 years of my career prior to. So I've been CEO for public trade companies, some of the biggest companies. And when you're a CEO and you realize that what you're doing is not something that interests you deeply, and
Mm.
you just do it for status, materialistic things, and how you feel about yourself, and because you think this is the right thing to do, because everybody tells you this is the right thing to do, that gets very, very uncomfortable very, very quickly.
How do you, for yourself, how do you, in such times when you said in other jobs that you had these moments where you said, okay, I'm not quite sure if this is the right thing to do. Um, how do you make a decision for you? What are your criteria to say, okay, it's just a phase and I will push through and then it's gone, or it's really something that you need to change? Do you have any criteria sets developed for you to make such decisions to say, okay, let's just fold it and move on, or no, it's just a phase, let's just move forward?
I think passion and interest is not a phase. I think this is something that you're there. But again, you have certain responsibilities. You have responsibilities for people who appointed you or hired you. You have
Mm.
certain responsibilities to the teams that you have. You have certain responsibilities in terms of your own lifestyle expenses that you need to take care of. So it's not one of those things where you just wake up one day and you're like, I'll drop everything and I'll, like an American Beauty where he drops everything, goes working at McDonald's selling burgers, right? So this is not one of those things. But you understand rather quickly that this is just a phase. Like there's jobs you start and you're like, oh, I can see myself here for a long time. And then there's career moves that you do and you're like, okay, this is a 2, 3, 4 year kind of thing. And in those 2, 3, 4 years, I have to set myself up for the next thing, to find the next thing, or create the next thing.
Okay, that's clear. Let's go back to your company and the scientific approach that you have. Let's dig a little bit deeper into that area. Can you describe how you include science in your company?
I mean, from a data perspective, again, you have 50 blood markers on a regular basis. Those blood markers are being reviewed from with a medical team, with dietitians. They understand and they can cross-reference and cross-check other people in that area. So there's always a certain supervision from a data science perspective where the data has more meaning than just the figures that you see there, because they're intertwined with the data sets of people who are similar to that. And this is what makes it unique. As I said prior, a doctor only looks at you as one of 100 or 150 patients. We look at you as part of several 100,000 people, and with indications, inclinations, and understandings of potential risks. And this is what makes it unique when you have a large data set.
Do you work with research organizations together, or do you hire the scientists in your company?
Both.
How does a collaboration with your company look like for scientists?
It would be a medical institution. Medical institutions would be able to have their patients on the system. The system would recommend to them what the formulas they would need. They would be able to adjust them as they see fit. and they would be able to lead the journey of their patients through the platform, give us feedback from their side, what they would adjust depending on what's going on with their patients. So we had integrations with some of the largest medical institutions in Europe, in the Middle East, in the US, where they would use our algorithms and our platform to support their clients.
Have you ever considered a collaboration with clinical organizations who research the area of treating diseases with supplements, basically to understand better what different supplements can make in the progression of certain diseases?
We did 2 university studies in the past. There is certainly an aspect there. I think we're a little bit early in our life cycle as a company. I think this is something that might become interesting more in the near future. But when you build a D2C brand, those things, they take away from the market feedback and the product market fit that you need to find first before you think about things like that.
Would you consider?
We know that the product worked 7 years ago. That was never thought. We started with clinical trials. So it didn't make sense to go back to clinical trials. We needed to showcase that these clinical trials were able to prove that there's a product that the masses need. And this is the part of the journey where we're at right now.
So you are interested in tackling the mass market, not only the personalized market, but also going towards.
We want to disrupt the generic market. So tackling the mass market might sound a little bit too harsh because it is $75 plus premium product. You're not really going after the mass market that starts at $5. We want to disrupt the generic market. And you need to start with a point there. And this point is like, hey, people who are taking several supplements a day, there's a high chance that what you turn to taking is either the wrong thing or has the wrong dosage for you at this given moment.
So the customers in your company are basically connected to Bioniq for decades to come. It's an ongoing collaboration. It's more of like a collaboration, basically.
Close. It's a mutual journey, and we're incentivized to improve the client because the patient or client in this case sees the data sets. So yeah, we have members who have been with us for 6+ years.
So you have constant interaction with your clients, which is from the dosages. How many clients do you serve?
So last year we did 237,000 formulas.
37,000 formulas, which means translates into 37,000 clients at the end of the day.
No, the math doesn't work like this. But from a volume perspective, you have several 100,000 people that we have feedback loops with. Yeah.
And this is a constant feedback loop with patients that is amplified with artificial intelligence. So you have a really great understanding of the global healthcare system developed and from the data. When we would imagine that you have the potential to remodel the healthcare system in the West, let's just stay with Germany, let's just pick one country, from the data that you have seen in the last 10 years from your experience. I mean, you have a profound experience. This is the point that I wanted to make before with the data. How would you remodel the healthcare system if you really had the chance to build it from scratch? How would your healthcare system look like?
It would be nutrition-led. Healthcare system would not be medical, pharmaceutical-led. It would be nutrition-led. Nutrition is the most important thing that you can do for your health. 70% of your health is your nutrition. I would completely revisit from a food map perspective and food ingredients perspective and things, the additives that are being put into food. The deficiencies are coming and they're becoming worse and worse every decade because of the processed food, because of the additives in our food systems, because of the way the food is being raised in terms of when it comes to the animals. So we get into the point where if you want to tackle the overall health issues, you have to go to the food industry first and foremost.
Do we want that?
We need to. There's no option. You have no other option. Listen, testosterone is dropping by 1% every single year. Testosterone drops by 1% every single year because our body is incapable to handle the calories and the processed food and the additives and the pollution that is exposed to. If we do not change the things that we intake, where in 20, 30 years from now, reproduction will be a huge concern for the Western world. The reason why the birth rates are so low is because reproduction is becoming very, very difficult for a lot of people out there because of the exposure to all those things that we mentioned. In other parts of the world where this exposure is not that high, reproduction is very, very high. But when we talk about the Western world, the more something is dealt with artificially, the more impact it has on our bodily function.
So if I understood you right, you would move the focus from the healthcare system, which is basically treating diseases, to more the food industry and say this is the root cause of all the health problems that we have right now, and you want to change that. How would your optimal food industry look like?
I think now we're getting a little bit out of this is not my niche, not my space. But my understanding is if I look at the blood markers that we're currently seeing, at the blood markers that we're seeing with children, that we see with women who are trying to give birth, that they do not absorb from the food the volumes of microelements and vitamins that they used to absorb with. So deficiencies are getting bigger. So we understand that the root cause comes from the nutrition quality. So if the root cause for your health deficiencies comes from nutrition quality, then you know already now where to start with.
Okay.
But this is not me advocating what the food industry needs to change. We need to look what was changed over the last 20, 30, 40 years and see what of those things could be reversed if possible. Or we need to adjust the products to live in this new world, which we're trying to do. So there's a balancing act here. But this is just, I want to, repeat myself that the foundation for health is the food intake.
Okay, that's clear. That's clear. And your position currently is, since you can't fix the food system, that you help people to live in that world.
Correct.
With your supplements. And when you look at your data, is there really such a huge difference in the last 20 years when you look at the nutrients that people got from the food? Let's say 20 years ago, it's 2005, and now we're in 2025. You really see that in the data, that this is not just storytelling, it's really data-driven.
I mean, so Bioniq is 6 years old, so we're not 20 years old, so I can't. But there is an incredible amount of data on levels like testosterone, on increasing diabetes, on obesity rates all over the world, especially in the Western world, that indicates the impact of the food industry. Yes. I mean, all you have to do is look at the average calorie intake that has grown from 1,500 to 1,800, 2,100, up to 3,100. That's average calorie intake for an average person.
Yeah.
3,100 calories, professional athlete doesn't eat that.
Yeah, when I think back to the 80s, I mean, basically it was a breakfast and during the day almost nothing. And in the evening you had dinner with your parents and then that was it. And now it's constant snacking. You have food availability. It's everywhere.
Yeah, and anything you can eat can have 500 calories or more, which used to be a third of your food intake.
I mean, you live in Dubai, and I'm pretty sure that Dubai has everything that also the West has, or much better, and food is available. How do you control yourself in that world? What's your advice that you can give people? Say, look, I'm really struggling with that. I eat too much food, and the supplements are clear. But what is your day-to-day advice to them when I say, okay, look, you have to change that? How do you do that?
You start with protein. Protein is the cornerstone of nutrition. Protein is also the most saturated. So it fills you up the most. So it's the most satiant macro. So whatever you do is the rule of thumb is the following: every person should eat, let's call it 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of lean mass. So if you weigh, I don't know, 100 kilos and you have 20% body fat, so 80 kilograms of body fat, that means you eat 120 grams of protein every day, right? 1.5. So if you need 120 grams of protein, whatever you do is you need to make sure you fill that up first. And because of the moment you fill up the proteins for your diet, you'll be already full enough that everything else on top will be more difficult. So from a macronutrient perspective, protein is the foundation. Protein is the only macro that is necessary for you to remain active and remain from a muscle building synthesis perspective. and everything else you add on top. So you have the fats on top, the healthy fats, obviously, and then you eat the carbs on top for the energy perspective. But when anybody who struggles from a nutrient perspective, they don't know where to start, I would tell them, make sure you get your minimum amount of proteins every day as a foundation and take it from there. Everything else, listen, I can talk about nutrition for hours, and I don't think people came here to listen to that part.
No, it's a great thing. It's a great thing. Where do you see Bioniq in the next 10 years? What's your journey?
I mean, the next 10 years, I want to be in every household that has a concern around health. I want to be the brand that people trust when it comes to supplementing their daily diets. And I want to increase the feedback loop from a blood test to something that is almost being able to done on a weekly basis, if not daily basis. And I think that we're working towards that. We want to be in a world where we're becoming a stable of your daily routine. And the educational aspect is the most important part here.
On a daily basis. So did I understand it right, that your plan is that your customers get their daily supplements adjusted to their daily conditions?
There's a dream that I have a vision where you wake up in the morning, you go downstairs to your kitchen, your fridge has a scanner. The scanner screens your face. You put your hand in, it scans your hand, and based on your temperature, based on your data, your wearable data, your sleep, your face, your sagginess of your eyes, the body will be able to tell what's missing, and the machine would create the personalized mixture for you for that day. So right now with macros, if I had a heavy workout, I have more protein. If I had a cardio, I have more carbs. If I have a difficult, I don't know, something that requires cognitive parts, I have more fat. This is the same thing. I want something that will be able, you'll have a machine in your house that will mix the ingredients based on what you need. It doesn't mean we have to deliver it to you every day. It means you have your personalized micronutrients in your house that will be mixed for you every day, depending on what your body needs that day.
I mean, I think with the technological advancement of the last 10 years, like Apple Watch, for example, or the iPhone, these big corporations going more towards personalized health, I think the gadget would be there in the next 10 years. But what I can't wrap my head around after listening to you is how would the machine make the supplements in the household?
It's very simple. It's like a pre-container. So we already have a prototype for that. We developed one.
Really?
Yeah. So it's basically you fill them. It's like a cartridge for your printer. Different colors, you have different supplementation, and this supplementation will adjust to what you need, and you have that mixture for that day.
And where is your role then?
My role,
you deliver for your company. You deliver the cartridges basically to the households. Then at the end of the day, and they print it out.
we're doing the most important part. We're saying what cartridges do you need?
Yeah,
what ingredients you need, what dosage. That's the role.
That would be really interesting to have that. How far away are we from that vision to realization?
I mean, for a prototype, I can do it probably next year. For a rollout, you're probably talking about years.
Okay, let me ask you a final part of the conversation. What problems do you work on in your company right now? I mean, we have 18,000 people in the network, a lot of investors, a lot of entrepreneurs. What problems are you working on where you are looking actively for someone helping you moving things forward faster towards your vision?
I mean, from a multi-channel integration perspective, we are always looking for partners from an integration distribution aspect. Share the vision and the mission for personalized health. So anybody who has the connections or the network for the end consumer and has integration capability to automate that and implement that, I think that's a big aspect. We're always looking at innovations in this space in terms of delivery or production for development of certain things. So if there's research out there on new components or new products that might be of interest, we're always happy to look into that. From an app perspective, we are updating the app right now with a full integration with all the wearables. So people will not only have the blood test, but also all the wearables integrated, including AI, health coach. And so there is interaction going on with the wearables, with the blood component, with AI. So any company that does something in a space that can add value from a user's experience in the app, we're more than happy to talk to. And at the end of the day, hey, if you have a successful business in the supplement space somewhere in the world, I would love to talk to you. We're always open. We already acquired 2 companies. I'm always very bullish on different kinds of growth. One can be organic, one can be through acquisition. So let's speak.
So you're actively acquiring companies. So you're not only looking for service partners or collaboration partners, you also think about acquisition.
We already done that twice, and we're very, very experienced in giving quick feedback if there's interest levels there.
What are your target geographies that you are currently?
80%. US market is already today 80%. US market is 50% of the overall global health. That's the markets. All the other markets, if they're interesting, I'm happy to look. But everything happens in the US when it comes to supplements.
Vadim, amazing conversation. Is anything open in your opinion that we should talk in the last minutes of the conversation?
Thank you, Christian. Thanks for having me.
Vadim, thank you very much for your time. I find it really interesting, and I think I will try it out in the coming weeks, how your company then helps me with your supplements.
I'm good here. Thanks.
Have a great day. See you
Bye.
soon. Bye-bye. Personalized health is not a luxury anymore. It's the next frontier for everyone who wants to perform at their peak. Vadim Fedotov challenged us to rethink everything from daily nutrition to how we build resilient teams. We explored a future where your supplements and your leadership are tailored to what you actually need, not what the market says you should want. In a world of generic solutions and crowded claims, most people settle for average results. Vadim's story is a reminder you get out of life what you put in, whether that's your health, your company, or your mindset. And the real question here is, are you willing to do the work that others won't? So if this conversation nudged your thinking, if you are ready to go beyond one size fits all, don't let the momentum stop here. Follow the show, leave a review, or share it with someone who never settles for average. Every follow, every thoughtful share brings more visionaries into this circle. It fuels deeper conversations with guests like Vadim and builds a network of leaders shaping the future, one decision at a time. True progress is never generic. It's personal, it's disciplined. It's for those ready to lead by example. Thanks for listening in, and see you next time for another conversation that challenges the status quo.